It's been really quick, but we are now down to the last game day before we head on over to the PBA Governors Cup playoffs. Now, to tell us what is at stake for the teams tomorrow, we have with us basketball analyst Coach Jeff Carriazo. Coach Jeff, how are you doing?
Good.
Hey,
good.
Coach.
Always nice to be here. Thanks for having me, Pao, Diego.
You know, Coach, we love you here all the time because you give us a lot of insight that, typically I would save for nerdier analysts, and I love the fact we can have these types of conversations. Let's take a look at the standings first here, because right now San Miguel Beer and Rain or Shine will be one of the games that we'll be featuring, and Rain or Shine already eliminated from the contest. But then for San Miguel, interesting thing here, they still have a shot at the #1 seed, but it still feels like they're still trying to figure things out, especially without a Junmar Fajardo in contention.
Well, if they played the way they played last night, I think they really have a good chance. They're content and happy where they are, whether it's 1, 2, or 3. But again, a San Miguel team, regardless of Junmar, is still a very strong team.
I mean, one of the very stacked teams here in the PBA, Coach. But let's talk a bit about Rain or Shine. They're out of playoff contention already, Coach. And you've experienced both being out of the playoff contention as a coach, but also contending as being one of the top teams. Can you take us through what you have to say to these players, how to motivate them, knowing that you're not going to make it to the playoffs, but you still got to do your best against a team like SMB?
Well, at the end of the day, I think, we're all professionals. So, regardless if there's 1 game, 10 games left, you always want to play every game the same way, the right way. And then you want to end this conference on a good note, It may be a small thing, but at the end of the day, hey, you have an opportunity for a small bonus. Why not go get it?
Right.
So, this young team, I think, and they have been playing well regardless of the fact that there's no import.
Yeah.
So, I think you're going to see them working hard tomorrow and giving their best and trying to win.
Yeah, I want to bring that up actually, because they had to play all Filipino because of the import situation for a few games. In fact, some may argue if they had an import in some of those games, they might have actually made it to the playoffs. You take a look at it, if you're Coach Yang Liao and all of a sudden you have players who are young and suddenly given this opportunity to develop in a way that they probably wouldn't have gotten if they had an import, if they had a reinforcement. And is that a silver lining for those guys? And is that a silver lining for Coach Yang Liao that he now knows more about some of the young guys he has now?
That's a very good point. I really think it is a silver lining, and these guys are getting opportunities that they may not have gotten. So yes, they go through the import situation. There's a problem here and there. It happens, but what do you do then? What do you do now to grow and develop? Play your young guys. So that's what I'm excited about. There's a lot of young guys on that team. I think they're pretty solid across the board.
Yeah.
They're just lacking a little bit more experience and just a little bit more time with Coach Yang.
Right. I mean, talking about young guys who's stepping up right now. I mean, Pao mentioned earlier that Junmar will be out for a couple of weeks for SMB. I mean, that's what the reports say. But CJ Perez, you mentioned you're going to be mentioning, Coach. How important is he for SMB to make it, far in the playoffs?
Right. I think his consistency is really proof on why they do so well.
Yeah.
So CJ is really their top guard, amongst all the wonderful, great players that they have there. What's really impressive, and I saw this firsthand last night, versus NLEX is, gosh, they play well together and everyone understands the role.
Right.
And whether you're coming off the bench, whether if you're Alin Bulanadi or if you're gosh, Romeo played a little bit last night.
Yeah, he did. I was going to mention.
But there's so many weapons on that team, and with an import like Cameron Clark, gosh, anything is possible for that San Miguel Ball Club.
Well, leading the charge for Rain or Shine is Rain Ambatak, 14.2 points per game, 2 rebounds, and 3.9 assists. And you can only imagine just how much more he'll improve in the next conference. But let's move on here first to the TNT and Barangay Ginebra matchup. A lot of people might have said that this matchup probably could have decided a lot more had the standings been a lot tighter. But then you take a look at these two. TNT, it feels like they haven't gotten their full flow yet. Barangay Ginebra still have a lot of injuries to deal with, and they're trying to work out. Again, still no Japet Aguilar for them. You take a look at these two teams, not at their full strength, but still, in your mind, title contenders for sure?
Very much so. So, you say that about the two teams, but I really think, obviously, they are the top 2 teams. Top 3, you include San Miguel. And, they're strong because, again, they're familiar with each other. They played together for a long time, and they both have really good imports.
Well, if you talk about TNT, they're basically a lock for the #1
Yeah.
spot, except if Ginebra wins and Rain or Shine wins.
Yeah.
And that's the
Right.
only way they would give up that #1 spot.
Right.
But, Coach, they have only lost one game so far here in this conference. What's going right for them? What are you seeing? You've been covering the games, Coach.
Yeah, first of all, with this last play date, they do have, out of the 4 scenarios left, Talking Tech does have 3
Right.
to be #1. So that's exactly right. Why Talking Tech is doing so well, in my opinion, is because they went from being good now to very good with the change of import in Rondé Hollis Jefferson. So he's really brought them to another level. But you cannot disregard or discount the locals.
Right. Yeah.
Why I like their team is because they're balanced. They're balanced across the board. They know who their scorers are. Our Pogoy, Mikey Williams, they're going to do their thing. And then you have your veteran guys that are playing the role players, Jason and Kelly Williams.
Right.
And then the young guys. Don't disregard the young guys who play D and who are pests, with doing the little things like Tungkab and Marilia, who they recently got, and then Montalvo. So I say they're complete, and Coach George is doing a great job so far.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to mention Kelly Williams. I was going to ask if he was your batchmate, but I think maybe not. But,
No,
They played against each other.
But yeah,
That's
they
what's
played
great.
against
Now,
each other.
buta niya ako, that's for sure. That's for sure.
All right. But Jamie Malonzo, now moving on to the other side, it felt that ever since that Game 7 against the Bay Area Dragons, he just went from strength to strength. He just showed us that it wasn't a fluke, that type of performance, because he has been producing more consistently this time around. What's changed in his game, in your opinion?
Just, the experience. And I think having more games under his belt as a pro, having more games under his belt with Coach Tim and this Ginebra team, he looks very comfortable, and we can only expect him just to get better each and every game. And he's showing it. And I'm really happy for him because he's not just doing it on the offensive end. He's understanding that there's a need, especially with your coach Tim, there's a need to play on the defensive side.
Yeah.
And he's also doing that.
Right. I mean, Jamie averaging 17 points, 7 rebounds, and almost 3 assists per game, doing a little bit of everything for this Ginebra team. But for Ginebra, they've only had 2 losses so far, Coach. As a team, I mean, Jamie Malonzo for sure has an effect, but as a team, what are they doing right this conference as well, Coach?
Well, I will say first and foremost that the guy who's stepping up big time for them this conference is C-Stan. Just playing great, understanding that they need a big guy present, the presence of a big guy without Japit there, and he's actually doing well. He's playing, I think, and coming off a really good performance in the finals. But again, another team that's well balanced, well coached, and that's why they're top 3.
It's surprising considering the fact that no Japet Aguilar, no LA Tenorio for this Barangay Ginebra team, and they're still flying as high as they are. But you take a look at this matchup here for TNT and Barangay Ginebra. Is there still another level for them, especially when you get into the playoffs? Because we all know how ruthless they could be.
Right.
But then with all of the ups and downs of the conference so far, do you feel that that next level is attainable for them?
Well, I think for you to be able to be successful in the playoff is you do have that next level. So do they? I think they do. Aside from the experience of, again, being in those positions and playing in big games like that, I think these guys know when to step on the gas even more.
Yeah.
And, that's why it's going to be an exciting playoffs for the PBA this conference.
Coach Jeff, I can't wait to hear you call the playoff basketball because
Gonna
it's
be
so
very
fun.
exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. Really appreciate you coming on over.
No problem. Looking
Thank you,
forward to
Coach.
it. Thank you.